She came from the States, and for all those commanders, those misogynist commanders, they were really put it on her. So all my childhood in Israel, we didn't have any Golda no Golda in schools. Like her name was not in every street. She was kind of like missing. The only thing we had is like 100 shekel bill, and that's what we had her, image. But that's it. So she was that lady that no one talked about until the declassified documents came out and revealed that she was not the one to blame, but there was so many other commanders and ministers that they didn't do their job, exactly like what happens today, that a lot of stuff coming out, and you understand that the dysfunctional government and army, that's what happened in '73. And that's where Golda's character completely changed in my mind.
Yeah. So you had believed this up
Yeah, I believed totally. I didn't understand why we're doing a movie about Golda, who was the worst prime minister in Israel history. But then I understood it's not true.
Wow, that's amazing. And Helen, for you?
Well, I didn't know this side of Israeli history at all. I mean, to me, when Golda was elected the Prime Minister of Israel, it was a huge moment because, for a woman, a young girl growing up, in the 50s, 60s, as I did, the concept of having a female, head of a government was inconceivable. So it was a wonderful moment for me when that happened, and the very fact that she looked the way she looked, it wasn't the choice was simply on her quality as a leader, as a person, as an intellect, not on her glamour, and anything to do with glamour. So that was wonderful and a revelation and very important. And to this day, she still remains, very iconic for me in that way. Then, of course, delving into the story and finding out much more about her and how incredibly important she was to Israel. She was very important in the forming of Israel in the early days, especially her trip to America, where she proselytized for America and came back with a huge sums of money, and really I would say was the mother of the creation of that symbiotic relationship between America and Israel. So she created that. So she was enormously important in many ways to the creation of Israel.
And Guy, when you came on the project, who was it that first suggested the idea of Helen Mirren in this role?
So it was, and I knew it way longer after we shot the film, but it was actually Gideon Meir, the grandson of Golda, who said, "When I see Helen, I see my grandmother." He was five when he saw his grandmother. But he said, "I see Helen." Yeah, okay. I'll start from the beginning. I think Helen will be the best to portray my grandmother, and then I met Helen here in Los Angeles, and I really felt that I'm talking to a family member, that I'm talking to someone from my family who deeply understand what it means to be her, and then I understood that Helen was in Israel when she was 29, doing the whole kibbutz and the whole, you can talk more about that, but I understood why I felt like that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's flattering, but it's also, I don't know if anything intimidates you, but it's a little intimidating to take on a role of this scope.
Oh, incredibly intimidating. You're on a high diving board, really, and you're just hoping there's a bit of water down there to land in. So yes, very, very intimidating. You just don't know whether it's going to work or not, and obviously the look, the change of the physiognomy and everything, which would have had to have happened whatever actress was playing it, because it's such a specific look,
Mhm.
and you have to recreate it to a certain extent. But you just don't know whether that's going to work or not, and you just have to hold your nose and jump in. Yes, and I think also, and I was so thrilled that Guy cast Israeli actors for all the military guys, and that was enormously helpful for me. Just feel, grounded and anchored. That they were all the real thing, if you know what I mean. They were the real thing, the genuine article. They were actors, of course. They were fabulous, wonderful Israeli actors, and I felt utterly at home with them as an actor. But also, it gave me a validity somehow, their existence.
But it's also what Golda felt with these army personnel, because she was the only American in the room, and they were Sabra, and she felt a little bit out of their niche, the group. But and that's what I wanted to have. I wanted to have this Israeli kind of like men around Helen portraying Golda, and I think it worked for us.
For us, incredibly. For me, definitely, yeah.
Your whole cast is fantastic, and it's so interesting because I don't think I ever would have thought of Liev Schreiber for Henry Kissinger, and he's fantastic.
He met Kissinger in his office 3 days before the shoot, and he actually got all the little bits and details of the meetings with Golda. And when he came to set, he completely upgraded the scene because he brought all this information from Kissinger. So this Golda, I'm a Secretary of State, and that's his story that he brought.
Amazing.
Yeah.
He came onto the project quite late. We'd already started shooting, hadn't we?
And he was
It was
nervous.
very difficult to find a Henry Kissinger that would work.
He came very late, and he was very nervous. And I remember that Helen said, okay, just Guy and Liev, why don't you come to my hotel and just let's run lines, so Liev would feel much more, because the scene was about to shoot late tomorrow.
Wow.
So he came, and we came to Helen and Rita's set, and I remember that she did it a few times, and then you ask him, how do you feel now, darling? He said, much better. So, they just, and I was just, the day after, I was just looking at the monitor, and I just see those two geniuses doing this scene. I was like, wow, it's incredible.
You've obviously played real people before. How much does it change your process? Do you enjoy having materials to draw on so you can sort of like get the voice, get the look? Does it change your process at all?
It definitely changes your process, absolutely. It's a very, very different thing to inventing a character. What sort of shoes would she wear? How should her hair be, and all of that. And as opposed to playing someone who's utterly prescribed in the way they look, their hair, their shoes, everything, their ankles in the case of Golda. But two very different ways of approaching acting, but both fascinating. It's wonderful to create your own character, your own personality. But it's also, it's a bit like being a detective, I should say. Playing a character who's real. You have to really study them, and like a detective, trying to see little clues in what they do. There was a moment playing the Queen when I was looking at, endless thank you for YouTube. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Same with Golda. YouTube was invaluable. But the Queen was so controlled on the outside and so calm and controlled. And then I noticed at one point that she had her wedding ring
she was completely still like this, but the ring, she was just going, literally just her finger was just going like this, like a little, you know, just really fast on her wedding ring like this, and everything else was utterly calm. And I thought, there it is, there's the clue, what's going on inside, you know. So you're like a detective looking for these little elements, you know.
I'm curious what she was saying while she was playing with her ring.
I don't think she was saying anything. She was just being, you know, the queen, you know, doing her queenie thing. But with Golda, I guess I think the clue for me with Golda, not that I particularly portrayed it like that, was I think you see it at the end there, the interview, when Sadat and Golda are together and she's charming him, and you see her wit and her humour and her quickness of mind. I think it was that little tiny bit of film that was the most valuable, probably.
You also used a very specific look. When Golda looks at you, she hardly blinks.
yes.
Oh, also, yes, absolutely. Yes, that
She's
incredible
great. Yeah.
intensity, yeah.
And I know you can do so much research and preparation, but how much does it help to get to these incredible sets, first of all, but also to put on the hair and the makeup, which is just phenomenal.
Yes, thank you. And, you know, we had very, very little prep time. You know, we didn't have months and months and months to prepare this. But our wonderful makeup artist, head of makeup, Karen, found these two young girls who just started a company making prosthetics. And they were brilliant, these two young girls, and absolutely brilliant. And they did that job. And it was their first big job that they'd ever done, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. They were amazing.
Yeah, they were. It took about 2.5 hours at the beginning, and then we got it down to about 2 hours. Yeah.
But Ellen's very humble. She woke up at 4, went into the makeup room while we are asleep, all the crew. And then when we came at 7, she was already Golda.
Wow.
And then when we went back home to our beautiful hotel, comfy hotel, you set another 2 hours to take it off.
Take it off again, yes.
Of those.
Yes, the crew never
was-
saw me,
Yeah.
except for as Golda. It's funny.
Can I ask, because it is such fantastic work that I don't know exactly how much is prosthetic.
I'm really, this is me.
And the eyes.
And the eyes, and my mouth, actually. But everything else is
Wow.
prosthetic. I can't remember how many different pieces there were. There are about 10 or more different pieces. I had a neck piece here, 2 pieces here, a nose.
And also the legs, because
And
Golda
the
had.
legs, yes,
great
they were the
legs.
pain of my life, those legs. They kept falling down.
When you said Golda's ankles, I actually wondered, I wonder if those are
Yeah.
Golda's ankles. No, I mean it as the highest compliment, because nothing will take you out of a movie quicker than.
Oh no, absolutely, and we're aware of how incredibly dangerous that was. And we didn't have a lot of money. It was a very low budget film, and we didn't have a lot of time because we didn't have a lot of money. So we sat in my kitchen in London with the makeup artist, and we put things on, and Guy would look, saying, "I think that's too much, take it off, but I think there should be more here." And we were very much guided by Guy in the look of it. He had the absolute final say.
It's a teamwork. It's a teamwork.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I do want to ask, because this is a period piece. You have a fairly sweeping ensemble, actually, and obviously dealing with very challenging material. For each of you, what did end up being the biggest challenge in making the film? It could be a technical thing, or it can be like a particular scene that is the one that you see on the call sheet. That's going to be a rough day.
For me, it was, it started as a massive war film, $80 million script that we read, and it was like 80% war, 20% Golda. It was private crime in the beginning. And then the pandemic happened and we lost all our money. And we had to, for me, the challenge was how do you bring the war into the room without shooting a single war scene outside? And then we decided, and it was when we met, we understood that we want to bring the war into Golda, under Golda's skin. It was how she experienced the war, because she couldn't go to the front because she was sick, because she couldn't. And how do you bring the war into the bunker, into her kitchen, into the walls? And we decided to use these sound bites from the war that we got from a guy named Amnon, who recorded all the soldiers in the front, in the Egyptian front. And we actually used that on set, and we ended up using it in the movie.
Like on set to set the mood, sort of?
Yeah,
Oh,
No, actually in the film.
in the film.
yeah.
When you hear,
on set.
when you hear that, and yes, and on set,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that was the biggest challenge. How do you make a war movie without seeing a war?
Yeah.
And that was the biggest challenge.
I'm a big believer that necessity is the mother of all invention, and honestly, this I think this turned out so much better than the movie you described.
Thank you. I mean, there's a movie with Gene Hackman, The Conversation,
Yes.
that is one person in a room with sound. It was a wonderful film.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for you?
Oh, I don't think anything was more challenging than anything else, but certainly a very emotional scene was to shoot the scene with the coffins, and it was one of the few scenes we shot outside. And what I had never grasped was, how small Israel was at the time in terms of the population, the number of people. So to lose a whole generation of young men was catastrophic. As a percentage of the population, it was which was why she was so vilified afterwards, wasn't it? And she did mark down, and Guy shows it in the film, in a book. Her consciousness of every single death was, she took it on board, like the mother of her nation, profoundly. And I think, as Golda, looking at those coffins being brought home, I think that was the most emotional scene to shoot, I think.
Absolutely. It's such a special film, and the good news is that you can see it now everywhere, and you can talk about it because the strike is over, and I'm so happy about that.
So we.
So I do want to ask everyone to spread the word, let people know about this film. Also, please join us for a reception outside. If you can stay seated so that they can get out, I would be so appreciated. But thank you for being a great audience, and
Thank
again,
you so much.
congratulations.
Thank you.